Our Q3 2020 update on the Tesla Powerwall 2 business model. Today we're going to quickly discuss the background of Tesla and the Powerwall 2. I'll introduce you to the Lean Canvas, which we're using to delve into the Powerwall 2 business model, and then I'll summarize everything with our planned product pathway. Now, as a refresher, the Tesla vision statement is to be the most compelling energy company of the 21st century by powering the transition of people and businesses to high-performance sustainable energy. Now, this future has three elements. The first is sustainably generating energy. The second is storing that sustainably generated energy for later use. And the last is using that stored energy for transportation and for homes and for businesses. Now, Tesla's quite far along the way in developing solutions in all these areas. So from the generation side, we've got solar panels and the Tesla solar roof. We've got electric vehicles, which Tesla's well known for, and we have solar batteries. We've got utility scale, and the focus of today's presentation, the Powerwall 2, which is for residential and business properties, So the Tesla Powerwall 2 basically allows you to store solar power that you haven't used for use when the sun isn't shining, reducing your reliance on the grid and saving money. Now, the other key aspect we'll look at today is the last stop point, which is the capability to save on bills by delivering electricity market services as part of a virtual power plant, which is essentially many aggregated Powerwall 2s, which in aggregate have enough power to bid into electricity market services. A bit of an introduction quickly to our Lean Canvas. Basically, it's a one-page template created by Ash Moria in 2012 that deconstructs a business into its key assumptions. The aim of it is to be actionable as possible for anyone looking at it while staying entrepreneur-focused. And it should capture that which is most risky about the business. So with that in mind, the purpose of the Lean Canvas today is to discuss our key business model assumptions, looking at current state and planned future state, and considering that future state, getting commitment, or trying to get commitment on our planned product pathway. So this is the Lean Canvas our teams worked so hard on. As I go forward, I'll focus on a few key aspects of this. Every single aspect has a slide dedicated to it, but for the purpose of today's presentation, I'll just focus on a few. So a quick refresher on our problem. We've got essentially three key aspects to the problem that we're solving. The first is for homeowners with solar panels, any energy generated that they don't immediately use gets sent to the grid, and the solar feed-in tariff is generally a lot lower than the consumption cost. So that there's essentially waste in the money they could be saving there. Our second problem is that solar and wind energy are two of the largest sources of renewable, sustainable energy. However, alone as technology sources, they face challenges in operating a functional electricity grid. Lastly, we've got increasing electricity prices. So for instance, in Australia, residential electricity prices increased around 56% in the 10 years between 2007-8 to 2017-18. So our solution for this is the Tesla Powerwall 2, but it's not just the Powerwall 2, it's also the aggregated battery services or virtual power plant services, which is sold to electricity market stakeholders. So how does this solve our problems? So the first problem is that solar batteries on their own can actually store unused solar generation for later use, which means that you're using your own energy rather than buying energy back from the grid. Our second problem is that VPPs, or virtual power plants, can deliver cheap, controlled dispatch capability, which meets a range of electricity grid needs that neither solar or wind can provide on their own. Lastly, customers can actually reduce their electricity bills based on the value derived from the previous two, which solves that problem. Now, just a quick touch on this solution is the reason we're discussing them together is that they are intrinsically tied to each other. First, in that the VPP services come from the Powerwall 2, but also in terms of network effects. So even though it's a hardware product, Similar to something like Facebook, the more users you have, the more value that you can get out of the network. So for batteries, this means that with more batteries, you have more buying power, more flexibility for your VPPs, which allows you to maximize your returns derived from a variety of electricity services. Now, there's a range of competing solutions to each of these problems. The beauty of the Powerwall 2 is that it's one package that solves all the problems as opposed to, a range of different packages. I've got a few key brainstormed points about our unique selling proposition, but I might just skip ahead to the key phrase that our product team came up with, which is that what we want the customers to take home is that Powerwall 2s are the leading edge of battery technology and have unbeatable value in one simple product. So the idea behind this phrase is we want to remind the buyer about Tesla's brand reputation and vision for the world. And we also want to claim through leading edge of battery technology, we want to claim the technology leader space in people's minds for battery products specifically, not just, say, electric vehicles, which we're well known for. Our unbeatable value in one simple product comes from a range of things. Probably the key thing I'll touch on, though, is around price point value. But that the value from solar batteries is actually quite complex, and that we want to convey the idea that buying a Powerwall 2 is straightforward. It's a simple decision that gets the best value for you. So there's a lot of good information on this unfair advantage page as well, but not super relevant for what we're discussing today. So I might just skip past that slide. Feel free to ask me about it. A quick touch on our cost structure. Because of the Powerwall 2 and the VPP services, we have a few more costs in general, in that we're doing manufacturing and we're doing basically software services. So the main change in this is that when we get to the variable costs, we also have server costs listed in there, and this is because the more batteries we sell, the more data those batteries log, and the more data we have to store, which means that we're constantly increasing the amount of data that we have to store and need increasing amounts of servers to store that data. So for our customer segments today, I'm going to focus on our VPP services, as our Powerwall 2 business model has been operating quite well for a long time, and we're just going to the focus of today is more on our VPP services for our product pathway. So we've got three key stakeholders, and that's the energy retailer, the energy network, and the Australian energy market operator. So your energy retailer is the people who buy and sell energy. So the services they're looking at are around managing price volatility and electricity financial markets, like electricity futures and things like that, and trying to hedge their bets essentially. The types of services energy networks are looking at are more around maintaining the poles and wires that they own. So they can use batteries to defer network augmentation or to manage voltage spikes and things like that. Lastly, we've got the Australian energy market operator, who are responsible for the entirety of the grid operating. And so some of the services that we'd be looking at selling into would include their ancillary services, the reserve and emergency reliability trader, and the lack of reserve events that occur. So our key metrics that we're looking at, they should center around your key engines of growth. And so our two key metrics are around solar battery installations per month and the percentage of our Tesla Powerwall 2 fleet that are in a virtual power plant and remain online. So the solar battery installations is for two key reasons. One is that we have a market penetration strategy. We want to capture the entire market if we can. The second is that power plants operate in steps of 1 megawatt. So our rate of installation is important to minimize the length of time between megawatts for financial reasons. that takes us into our virtual power plants. And the reason that we want 100% of our fleet online and in a virtual power plant is to maximize our potential earnings from electricity services on a per battery basis. And this really fits into our growth engine, as earnings can then be redirected back to customers to provide more and more value to them, to incentivize them and their friends to buy. So I'm just going to skip through channels and focus on our revenue streams. So our current revenue streams comes in the purchase of hardware from solar retailers and a very limited amount of electricity services that we sell on a software subscription basis model to some select energy retailers in South Australia. Moving forward, and this fits in line with our vision of being, a very compelling energy company, we want to see money coming in through installation fees and additional margin from not selling through a solar retailer. We'd do this by being a solar retailer ourselves. We do it through a portfolio of electricity services as opposed to just a very limited amount. And we do it through energy bills as an energy retailer ourselves. And so the way that we achieve that is looking at our development plan. And so what we really need to focus on right now as a part of our product pathways, we need to sell electricity services. Now, it's hard to do that as an energy retailer. And energy networks there's a whole range of them across Australia, so it's harder to develop solutions for all of them. But what we should focus on is services sold directly to the Australian energy market operator, and then using a lean approach to then compensating our customers. There are a number of ways we could do this. It could be through direct bank transfers, but we just need to find a quick way to do that. In the near future, but later, we'd be looking at two key things, which is vertical integration. So that's the solar retailing that I talked about previously, and horizontal integration, which would be the energy retailing, which would be selling electricity to customers, but we would be basing the viability of our energy retailing business off of the value that we can get from VPP services. So that's combining the whole portfolio of wholesale electricity volatility, electricity futures, network augmentation, voltage management, ancillary services, yada, 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 yada. So that is the intended product pathway. If there was anything in the presentation or in the slides that you'd like to ask me about, please feel free to do so. Thank you very much.